Hi gang, Rob here. It is the evening of 11 May 2020, coming to you tonight with a watch review. A watch I picked up, not quite 2 months ago, and I wasn't really sure if I was going to dig it, and it turns out it might be my favorite watch. From an old, storied brand, Longines, from Switzerland, part of the Swatch group. It's an old luxury brand, and back in my vintage watch collecting days, I was into a lot of vintage stuff, and I had a couple old Longines products, an old Conquest and an old Admiral from the 60s. Since those days, Longines has been acquired by the Swatch group, and it's kind of positioned in the Swatch lineup, I guess you could say, above Tissot, above Hamilton, below Omega. They make watches anywhere from $500 to $3,000 or $4,000. This particular one, however, is pretty interesting. It's part of the new generation of Conquest watches in the Longines lineup, and this one, as I think you can see in beautiful red print, is the Conquest VHP. Now mine is model number L371649666. It is the three-hand Conquest VHP with the blue guilloche dial. And it came on an oyster-style bracelet, which I will show you here in just a moment. It is now wearing an anchorage strap from Crown and Buckle in sort of a blonde nubuck leather with navy blue stitching. Rather smart, I think. I've worn it on a silicone Elite from Barton, and I've worn it on the bracelet. Before we get too deep into the watch, I'll kind of show you the packaging and the bracelet. So it comes in the standard Longines box, outer box, which I have backwards, inner box with the flap, and then the main watch box has a nice bit of what appears to be cocobolo trim, and then your pillow. And here's the stainless steel bracelet with butterfly deployant clasp, milled, highly polished, very nice. Standard push pin construction, which you might say you'd like to have screw links, but remember, this is an $800 retail watch that kind of streets for around the high sixes. I'm going to have to remove my tape so I can show you the end links. There you go. Very nice. You have a female end link, solid, all links are solid. Superb fit, and when I show you some pictures of the other variants, you'll be able to see how well the bracelet fits the head of the watch. Nice drape on the 3-link. I really kind of like the bracelet, and you guys know I'm sort of a strapped guy, but this watch wears the bracelet kind of frequently. Yeah. So nice packaging, and then as with all Longines products, in the bottom of the box comes the full product line owner's manual. At least 2 languages. I don't know, about 1,000 pages. It's like reading War and Peace. Seems like they could save printing cost if they made the owner's manuals product specific. But anyway, so I'm a longtime fan of Longines, and some of you will know this about me. I'm kind of a Quartz junkie. I love my EcoDrive Citizens. I own a Seiko Solar Quartz diver, the what is it, the SNE 435 Patty Edition, and I like quartz. I like well executed quartz, and then I don't know, over the last couple decades, several watch brands have been toying with the development and marketability of, I guess, what we call the ultra high precision quartz. Bulova calls it the UHF, ultra high frequency. Longines calls it the VHP, very high precision. Breitling calls it the super quartz. Citizen calls theirs the Chronomaster. The Seiko, I'm not sure if it has a brand name, but the 9F quartz movements. This is certainly one, okay? Longines in the late 80s, I believe, late 80s, early 90s, released the VHP series in the old Conquest line that had the integral bracelet, and frankly, they weren't particularly attractive. And then in 2017, it reemerged, at least the name VHP reemerged, but in a big way. So of the ultra high precision quartz brands that I mentioned, all of them run about plus or minus 10 seconds per year. The Longines VHP, twice as accurate, plus or minus 5 seconds a year. That's what sort of drew me to this watch. And then when you look at its price point, this basic three-hander retails for about $800, and it can be picked up gray market for high sixes and used less than that. When you look at its competitors, the Bulova Precisionists are probably a little less, but then you have a Bulova. The Citizen Chronomasters run around $2,000. The 9F Seikos and Grand Seikos, $2,000 plus. The Breitling Super Quartz, certainly well into that $2,000 to $3,000 range. This one, some say the most accurate quartz movement on the planet, except for the mythical unicorn, the Citizen Caliber 0100, which, if it ever makes it to production, will retail for about $7,000 or $8,000. So this, the second most accurate quartz movement on the planet for 1/10 the price of the most accurate. So that's what attracted it to me initially. Accuracy for the price point was my main motivation for purchasing this watch. I watched quite a few reviews of it, and there were some sort of common complaints, and I was a little worried. Word on the street for the Conquest VHP is that it does everything well. It's immaculately constructed, super solid, nicely finished, super accurate, beautiful dials. But people just didn't connect with it on a personal level. And I guess my only explanation of that is that most of the guys that I saw review this watch and have that reaction are mechanical watch guys. And I love my mechanicals too. I own several automatics, one of which is on my wrist tonight, the Gen 3 Sumo in green. But I dig me some super accurate quartz. So I was worried whether I would bond with this watch. I am bonding, guys. Oh, am I bonding? So let's kind of get into the specifics. This is running the caliber L288.2 VHP movement. That is the three-hand time date only. The L287.2 is the chronograph movement, and the 289.2 is the GMT. So those are sort of the three flavors that the VHP comes in, with a variety of dials, dial colors, dial textures, bracelets, and straps. I'll kind of run some pictures across the screen to give you an idea of that variety. I chose the blue because I think the blue shows off the sunburst effect, and then also, if I can get this thing to macro at a decent level, the beautiful concentric circle pattern of that guilloche dial. It comes in two sizes, 41 and 43 millimeters. I opted for the 41 for kind of an everyday watch. That's just a great size for me. You'll notice a polished fixed bezel, a polished crown, and those are the only polished surfaces on the watch. We've got vertical brushing on the lug tops, or I guess longitudinal, horizontal brushing on the sides of the case, including the crown guards. And then if you're wearing it on a strap, you'll notice vertical brushing in between the lugs. And I don't know if you can pick this up. I think you can. The case is bomb shaped, so it's radiused top to bottom, which I don't know if it aids in the comfort of the watch, but it certainly makes it look comfortable. And it's a very comfortable watch. The case shape, downturned lugs, a la Seiko. Now there's a pretty sharp point where the top of the lug meets the squared off bottom, but you never feel it. It never ever makes contact with my skin. Just beautiful. The case back has circular brushing and deeply engraved Longines trademark, the winged hourglass. Some technical information around that engraved center. So as I said, 41 millimeters in diameter, 20 millimeter lug width, case thickness just a tick under 12 millimeters. Weight, I didn't measure it and I didn't find it listed. It's kind of heavy for a quartz watch. Now, this same general case size and shape is found across the Conquest line, and I think Longines made a conscious effort to give this watch heft. I certainly don't mind it. It doesn't seem to be head heavy on wrist, even if you're wearing it on leather. And then when you wear it on the stainless steel bracelet, it's really well balanced on wrist. It lets you know it's there. It never wants to, flop down to the side of your wrist. It's just really, really well balanced with good heft. I love it. I love the case finishing. I didn't think I would. I don't think videos do it justice. I thought the lack of polished surfaces on the case and the odd curvature was a little off-putting on video, and you may think that from watching this one. But I'm telling you what, in person, it's just organic and beautiful. Talk about the dial a little bit. We've talked about the dial texture, and not to be underestimated is the way light plays with it. You're going to notice the baton markers that are faceted with a strip of superluminova down the middle of each. And here's your lume shot. Nice and bright. For an everyday watch, plenty adequate, I would say. So you have 10 of those baton markers with an abbreviated or truncated baton at the framed date window, all loomed. And then you have, I wouldn't say super slim, but fairly slim sword-shaped hands for hour and minute, with a generous application of superluminova, and this just a super fine second hand with a red tip, just gracefully tapers up to the counterweight. And then you have a red minute track, and then a chapter ring marked with Arabics for every 10 seconds, and then white second markers. And worth mentioning is that everything lines up on this watch. The batons, the white minute track, or the red minute track, and the chapter ring with its white second marks. Everything lines up, including the hands. Let's just watch. A huge pet peeve, especially with mechanical watch guys about quartz watches, is that the ticks don't seem to ever line up reliably with the markers. Not so with the VHP. It ka-chunks every single marker dead on all the time, without wobble or backplay. It's just perfect. If it ever isn't perfect, the VHP's processor, with included gear position sensor, corrects itself. If it has no cause for alarm, no magnetic field intrusion, no shock, every 3 days at 3 a.m., the GPD, gear position detector, will correct the position of the hands to the internal processor, which keeps the time. If the watch does encounter a magnetic field intrusion or a shock, the hands will stop until it senses that the intruder has passed, and then it'll resume by putting the hands in the right position and displaying the time. Then that evening or that night at 3 a.m., it will check itself and make any necessary adjustments. Pretty cool. And you'll notice there are 2 Arabic markers on the dial. They're listed as polished, but man, if you look at it directly on, it's almost like it has a smoky plating. If you look at it at an angle, they look to just be brightly polished. So it makes you look at it. I was a little at first disappointed in the blue dial, the legibility, but then the more I wore it, the more it just sort of like made me want to look, made me want to change angles. It is so precise. I like that it makes you work with it to read its precision because of the way the colors play with the light. It's just really cool. If you want super legibility, go with the white dial. It also comes in black and a carbon fiber texture anyway. One thing you'll notice, and I guess some people might not like a lot, if you look closely at the date ring appears to be black with white printing, and then the frame of the date window is just printed, but then nicely stepped down into that date window, and it's large enough to be super legible, even for my 54-year-old eyes. The Longines maker's mark signature is printed in white with the winged hourglass applied and polished, and then the VHP in red and the water resistance of 50 bars below that. I've heard some guys complain, if it's only got 50 meters of water resistance, why put it on the dial? Well, I guess that's to keep it consistent with the rest of the Conquest line. So I'll overlook that bit of strange bragging. So let's talk about the crown and how it operates. And it's different for all the models. The simplest is the three-hander. So you'll notice there is a spring push that does nothing on the three-hander. It just wheels freely in the neutral position, does nothing. So if I pull the crown out, the watch is going to run for about a minute. And it'll do something rather interesting. The VHP has a listed battery life of 4 years, unless you make good use of the function we're going to witness here in just a minute. It has a power save function. If you're going to put the watch away for a few days, just pull that crown out, and after it runs normally for a minute or so, I'm trying to fill time, but you're going to see the hands all move to the 12 o'clock position. I promise. I think we just have about 15 seconds to go. Talk amongst yourselves. There we go. Cha-ching. So the processor inside is going to continue to keep time, but it's not going to waste any energy moving hands until you decide to pull it out of your watch box, depress the crown, and it's going to move the hands back to exactly where they belong and resume displaying the time. How cool is that? So now, some of the cool stuff as we get into the setting functions. These watches have a perpetual calendar that's good to like the year 2300, and the date and the time are set at the factory, I imagine to UTC time, so you got to set them to your time zone when you get them, but you don't ever need to change the date. There's only one click out for that crown, no quick set date, because the date really can't be changed. I think you can move it one day, just, if midnight happens to happen when you're resetting the watch, or if it's getting a battery replacement, but only one day. It has a low battery or battery life indicator when the second hand starts to move 2 seconds. You have about 2 weeks to get it in and change the battery, which is jeweler or user or batteries plus serviceable. If you let it go dead, you got to send it back to Longines to have the battery installed and have it reset, have the perpetual calendar reset when the new battery is installed. So you definitely want to get your battery taken care of when you see it start to skip a second. Okay, so no quick set date, no need to set the date. So if you want to set the watch, and by the way, before I do, I got to show you this. I set this watch 6 weeks and 3 days ago, and I set it to, I set it to the clock on my iPhone, which of course is like a radio controlled time display. I don't know if you can see that. I don't know. I had it pretty dead, and it's probably like, it might be like 2 or 3/10 of a second later than my iPhone right now, but essentially it's dead, accurate after 6 weeks. So plus or minus 5 seconds a year, is that reality? Yeah, it is for mine, but I'm gonna blow it now. So when I pull the crown out to the first position, as soon as I move it, my second hand's going to hack. And then if I move the crown slowly, you're going to see the minute hand move slowly. If I move the crown briskly, it's going to move 1 hour. So notice when I did the quick movement, the second hand moved. So without hacking, if I just want to change time zones, I pull the crown out, Give it a quick flip, and it goes 1 hour without the second hand losing position, or the minute hand. It's pretty cool. If I want to go slow, it's going to hack. It's just super intuitive, and you really never have to worry about the position of your hands, because your minute hand's going to find the right spot. It's just super cool. You'll also notice, if you watch the minute hand closely, let me try to come in macro, every 10 seconds it moves 1/6 of a minute. So watch when it gets to 20. See the second or the minute hand move just a little bit. Then it's going to stay put until it comes to its next 10-second increment. And it moves. So it'll move again at 40. There. Okay. Just really cool. If you're sort of a quartz nerd, as I am, this watch just, it gets to you. Okay. Let's take a look at it on wrist. So here's a shot of the watch on my wrist, which is just under 7¼ inches. Give you an idea how it lies. It's really comfortable. For me, 41 millimeters in an everyday watch is just a super sweet size, especially if it's a case that lies on the wrist well, as this one does. Absolutely no issues whatsoever. I want to run in a picture of the watch on bracelet now to give you my my impressions there. The bracelet fits super comfortably. It drapes very well. With that female end link, it can accommodate a really small wrist. The one notable feature of the bracelet and how it fits the case is something I haven't decided if I like or I don't like. It fits the case so well that it almost disappears. The end links almost disappear into the case. It would be nice, I think, if the faux center link in that end link was more clearly delineated, if the groove that sets off that center panel were a little deeper to make it match the links in the bracelet a little better. And then I like the tight fit against the lugs, but I wish the line of demarcation between end link and lug was just a little more pronounced. It almost fits too well. Some days I look at it and think, man, that is so precise. Some days I look at it and go, man, you really can't see the end link for the lugs. So I don't know. I do love the bracelet overall, though. So overall impressions of the Conquest VHP. As I said, when I'm looking at my watch inventory as I'm ready to get dressed and start my day, it takes like everything I got not to wear blue and pluck this watch out of the case and throw it on. I love it. If you are a quartz nerd and you appreciate those old Swiss brands with orological significance, and then you can put them both together in what I think is just a stunning timepiece, this is probably for you. If you are a dyed-in-the-wool mechanical watch person and you think quartz watches have no soul, buy a Conquest automatic, maybe a Hydro Conquest, or whatever. But as for me, I dig it. I really, really dig it. That's all for this one. Thank you guys for hanging out with me, and I hope I've helped you make your decision if you're considering one of these watches, and confirmed your love for this watch if you are a closet quartz geek like me. Grace to you and peace, my friends, from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. Remember, the word is sharp. God and my Conquest are always right on time.